All righty. Just a good transition for the music. Ready. And I'll go ahead and get our recording started. All righty. So it looks like we are live. Let me just double check. Yep, we are live. And we are also live on Instagram live too. So yeah. Welcome, everyone. For those of you joining us tonight on Zoom or on one of the live streams that we have going on, tonight is our first full lesson for the current series of Conchas y Café zine. This session is going to be focusing on both a combination of photography and creative writing skills. So we do have a lot to cover. I'm not going to spend too much time going over, the overall series theme and all that. I'll leave it to Abraham, who's going to be leading the session to talk a little bit more about that. However, as I had mentioned earlier before we started the broadcast, the handout today is going to be displayed on the screen by Abraham. And he'll be kind of, like I said, leading you through a little game. So, feel free to answer the questions for the game either in the chat, or if you're watching on one of the live streams, you can use any of the commenting features on whichever platform you're using. Of course, the game is, all in fun. There's no right or wrong answers, just best guesses. But that said, if you want to have access to the handout that Abraham will be covering, it will be available to those of you fully enrolled in the class afterwards when this video goes up on YouTube, and it's going to be posted on our Google Classroom. So for anybody that is watching on the live streams, I definitely recommend that you go to our website, dstilarts.org/conchasicafezine, so that you can fully register for the class and have access to all of the handouts, including the ones from the previous sessions, as well as the ones that will be coming up. So, yeah. Thank you, everybody, again for joining in, and I'll hand the baton off to Abraham Jaramillo, our master teaching artist.
What's up, people? Glad to see you all here. Let's see how many people we have. Okie dokie. So again, today we have an interesting class, and let's get ready to rumble. Let me start sharing the screen. Oh, something pop up. Computer, don't do that. Okay, let's share this puppy.
Oh, that's a cute doggy. How cute.
Okay. So, okay, without further ado, what do you guys, what does this image convey to you? And again, since this class is going to be bilingual, going to be also referring to Spanish. So, ¿qué te transmite esta imagen? So, you guys, go ahead and give me a little thoughts on this image. ¿Qué piensan acerca de esta imagen?
Okay, so in the chat, Mojde wrote an angry wolf.
Okay.
Julie wrote dog eat dog.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
Neri, I see you raise your hand.
Well, I don't know what animal is the prey, but I can imagine the pain, like contemplating its last minutes being devoured by a wolf. I mean, the image is strong. I like it because it conveys the emotion, like raw emotion. But yeah, I mean, it's beautiful and cruel. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yes, definitely conveys nature, right? Like it's how how cruel it can be, right? Somebody put afraid wolves sometimes when are afraid we bare our teeth. Yeah. Hold on, what else is here? Sorry, I cannot catch up on the
Eric
hunting.
wrote,
Cruel is great word.
yeah, cruel is a great word.
Sorry.
Eric wrote ferality within nature.
There you go. I love
Ferality
also they
is
say
in the wildness.
within nature, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Mojde wrote sad wolf losing a friend.
Oh, like it. I like it.
Yeah.
I think everybody's right. I think that's kind of what the image is trying to tell us. And again, this image comes from Joel Sartore. It was taken 1997. The title of the photo is Captive Wolf. Again, 1962, Ponca City. That's when Joel Sartore was born. He was born in Oklahoma. He's an American photographer focusing on conservation. Speaker, author, teacher, and longtime contributor to National Geographic magazine. He's the head of the Photo Arc, a 25-year project documenting the approximately 12,000 species living in the world's zoos and wildlife sanctuaries. Esta foto viene de Joel Santore, fue tomada en 1997, se llama Lobo Cautivo y él nació en 1962 en Ponca City, Oklahoma. Es un fotógrafo estadounidense centrado en la conservación. Es orador, autor, fotógrafo, profesor y colaborador desde hace mucho tiempo de la revista National Geographic. Es el director de Photo Arc. Es un proyecto de 25 años para documentar las aproximadamente 12,000 especies que viven en los zoológicos y santuarios de vida silvestre del mundo. And this photo I took from one of my favorite books, one of the books that I love. This is called National Geographic Image Collection. Es como un libro que viene cada 100 años, algo así, 50, no me acuerdo cuántos años. So this photo comes from this book that I own. It's called National Geographic Image Collection. And again, I chose this photo because it tells you a type of feeling about this raw part of a hunt. The way this photo was taken is one of those cameras that you set up like a trap camera, and it was an enclosure, but it gives you this sense of the field of view that will you encounter in this feeding at this part of this angle of the wolf, right? But you can see it from far away, but this is so visceral because the camera is there to look at the blood and the animal and all these carnage, I guess, you think about it, which is part of nature, right? So without further ado, let's continue. Perspective. Never solve a problem from its original perspective. This quote comes from Charles Thomson. Perspectiva. Nunca resuelvas un problema desde su perspectiva original. Esta cita viene de Charles Thomson. So, what do you guys think about this quote? ¿Qué piensan acerca de esta cita? I'm going to repeat it. Never solve a problem from its original perspective. Nunca resuelvan un problema desde su perspectiva original. Okay, we have Eric. Think outside the box. Julie?
So, yeah, we all come with our own perspectives, biases of life and people automatically as we're growing up. So it's really important to be creative, to get outside of that box of your own perspective and see things from somebody else's perspective, so that you can understand the bigger picture.
Yes. And I like that you say from somebody else's perspective, because in this image, I think is trying to tell us like what's the other wolf looking at the same time. Not from us, from humans looking from far away. This kind of give us the pack perspective, right, at a feeding scene. So that's definitely correct. We have reminds me of a 48th Law of Power by Robert Greene. Be formless like water. Bruce Lee also said something similar. Yeah. Basically start moving depending on the circumstances, right? And we have solving problems many need, getting inside the problem's roots cause. Yeah. So you have to think like definitely outside the box and not just do things the same way all the time, right? So that's pretty good. And let me just give you a little bit of what perspective means. Perspective, it's a particular attitude towards or a way of regarding something, a point of view, right? En español, perspectiva, una actitud, recuerden, actitud particular hacia o una forma de considerar algo, un punto de vista. Eso puede ser visual, puede ser perspectivo de forma de actitud, ¿verdad? Any questions so far, guys? Are we all good? Okay, perfecto. Okay. So now let's break a camera. That's what we're here for today. Ahora rompamos una cámara. Okay. So here it's a camera. And today we're focusing more on lenses. So let me explain what MM is. MM is something that you're gonna look when you're looking for lenses. So vamos a romper esta cámara y como les digo, vamos a enfocarnos en lentes, pero les quiero decir que una cosa en particular que es cuando buscan lentes van a encontrar es una cosa que se llama MM y lo que significa es millimeters of the focal length. This measurement is taken from the optical center of the lens, the camera's to the camera's sensor. Básicamente lo que hace es de este punto de aquí que están viendo, la luz va a entrar y en este punto va a comenzar a enfocarse y de aquí hacia el sensor, esos son los milímetros que se cuentan. So these are the millimeters they're talking about. From this point here in the middle, and again, some cameras will change that because as you can see here, it has a mechanism that will shift this. This creates cameras that are called zoom lenses. So basically you have different distances. And some cameras are gonna be prime lenses that they will not move. They're always gonna be at that same point, okay? So that is from here to the sensor. And the sensor basically is what used to be film, and film used to be an element that was basically light sensitive, and the light will create an image. In that case, will be a negative. But today we have sensors with basically little things that will capture light and colors, and they will save it into the camera, right? Any questions so far? What MM stands for? ¿Alguna pregunta que lo que significa MM? Okay, so far so good. We're in the right track, I guess. Okay. So today we're focusing again on lenses, lens sizes in particular, but here's a little extra information on sensor. Hoy nos centraremos en tomar en tamaños de lentes en particular, pero aquí hay un poco de información acerca sobre los sensores. So last time I went to the Huntington Library with my parents, like a month ago. And I think a tourist came to me like, oh, why are you carrying this backpack and this super expensive camera if you can take a photo where your cell phone? And I went like, I didn't take it like as bad. I just answered like honestly, and I tried to inform him. I didn't have enough time to inform him the whole thing, but I was able to explain a little bit towards him, right? So basically we have sensors, as I told you, is the thing that captures the light. And here to the bottom here, is a phone's sensor. This little thing here is this sensor that most cameras have, right? Here is a sensor for basically a GoPro. These ones I will call point and shoot. These cameras that have these small sensors, but it's also because they don't have as many functions. Then I will call this crop sensor, which is it's a good size, but it's still not the full frame. Full frame represents basically what used to be the film, which is 36 by 24 millimeters. That's what the full frame camera is. That's kind of the standard. And then you have other type of sensors like this one here, which is the 8K video. And this one's not only big, but also has a different format. As you can see, it's like a landscape, like has this long format. So, and then we have the medium format, which has these huge sensors, and they're super expensive. But those are the things to consider, like, oh, why cameras are so expensive, or why people choose to shoot with this type of cameras. It's because of the sensor and the functions that will give you. But today we have good cameras on your phone, so it's not discouraging either. So with that being said, now
maybe another thing too to add to that, Abraham, is just
yes,
that, you know, all of these different types of cameras, they ultimately do the same thing, right? Is they all capture light. The difference between size is going to be just, you know, the quantity and the quality of the light that they capture. And you have to combine that with a good quality lens. So it's not just about
yes,
the camera, it's also very important to have a good quality lens. And even when it comes down to it, just a simple clean lens. Because sometimes, you know, especially our cell phones, you know, we'll pick them up from wherever. And if our fingerprints are all over the lens, that's going to kind of, you know, make our images look a little bit more
yeah,
blurry.
all blurry. So always try to, well, phone cameras, to have them good, it's tricky, but if you're going to start taking photos with your phone, definitely clean them up and try to take care of it. Sometimes they have things so you can put on front, but there you go. And now that we know that stands for, let's check what the lenses are out there. Ahora que conocemos lo que significa veamos qué lentes hay disponibles. So here are a couple lenses, and for this one, I want you to take notes, tomen notas. So I'm gonna give you, I don't know, 2 minutes to take notes. Just this part here, start taking those notes. Basically, wide angles, 12 to 35 millimeters, normal perspectives, 40 to 70, telephoto, 70 to 1200, and then macro lens designed for close-up photography. And I'm going to explain more about this, but for now, I just want you to take notes because it's going to be helpful for you guys.
I'm with Julie. I'm a Nikon fanboy. I've been I've been using Nikon since I first got my my first major camera. So Nikon is great. Although, you know, Leica makes excellent lenses. Voigtlander makes excellent lenses. So, you know, the company itself, you don't have to always buy directly from the company. There are, you know, second party manufacturers that also make very, very good lenses.
Sorry, guys, but I'm a Sony camera, so sorry, I have Canon too as well, but
yeah,
I love my Sony. Anyways, let's get back to this. Is everybody finished with your notes? And again, writing them down, I think it's the best thing to do. Helps a lot. But I guess anybody needs more time. Okay, seems like everybody has their notes. So without being said, before we move on, let's see what your phone has to offer. Antes de continuar, veamos qué tiene para ofrecer sus teléfonos. And again, same as here, it has many setups of different phones will have cameras, right? And for example, here was a wide angle. This is the flash, and then we have a telephoto lens. And basically, mobile phone cameras with multi-lenses, commonly known as multi-camera setups, or dual, triple, or quadruple camera systems. And there's also other systems, but I don't want to get into it for now, but many lenses on your camera, your phone, work by combining the capabilities of multiple lenses to improve various aspects of photography. Each lens in the setup serves as a specific purpose, and the combination enhances the overall camera performance. Again, en español, las cámaras de teléfonos móviles con múltiples lentes, comúnmente conocidas como configuraciones de múltiples cámaras o sistemas de cámaras duales, triples o cuádruples, y hay otras diferentes, pero no nos vamos a meter eso por ahora. Funcionan combinando las capacidades de múltiples lentes para mejorar varios aspectos de la fotografía. Cada lente de configuración tiene un propósito específico y la combinación mejora el rendimiento general de la cámara. Y como les estaba diciendo en inglés, por ejemplo, muchos teléfonos van a ver que tienen varias cámaras casi juntas, ¿verdad? Por ejemplo, aquí tiene una arriba, que es un lente de ángulo amplio, y aquí otra de telefoto. Y aquí está el flash. A veces también tienen cámaras donde está la pantalla, que es lo que se llama la selfie cámara, ¿verdad? There's also phones that you can see the camera on the front with the screen where you can take your selfies or take video calls, right? So you have around three cameras in one phone, right? So just to add up to your notes, different lenses. Each lens is multiple camera systems, and they're talking about phones, but it also applies to different cameras, right? Has its characteristics such as wide angle lenses, ultra wide angle lenses, telephoto lenses, and macro lens. So some of them are there, except for the ultra, I think, in the other list. Diferentes lentes. Cada lente en el sistema multicámara, y me refiero, cuando dicen multisistema, es lo que se refiere es a los lentes que están en su teléfono, pero también las cámaras tienen lentes, pero están separados. Tienen sus características como lente gran angular, lente ultra gran angular, teleobjetivo y lente macro. And I'm going to get into this explaining everything, but just want you to have a little extra information before we move on, okay? So now let's play a game of Guess the... Ahora juguemos a adivinar el M. Basically, for this, I'm going to show you a photo, and you're going to guess the M, basically how many millimeters the lens was taking this photo. I mean, what was the mm that was taking this photo, okay? And you have, I mean, it's a guessing game. Don't worry you fail, but you can go from like, I don't know, up to 1 to 100 and something. So it depends on you. And you can check your notes if you feel that's going to help you, okay? So, como les decía, es un juego básicamente de adivinar. No se preocupen, nadie va a perder aquí, excepto la dignidad. So again, for this one, I just want you to keep track of your own points. And at the end, we're going to count who has the most points, I guess. So don't bother putting nothing in the chat until the end, and you just put how many points you got, and we'll see who has the most points, okay? So without further ado, we're going to show you the first photo, and you're going to guess the mm. And again, just a quick reminder, mm is this thing here, right? The distance from between this point to that point. And then I'm going to explain why and what type of lenses, okay? So don't worry about not knowing. It's more of a guessing game, okay?
Also, little credit to Nettie for putting in the chat an actual picture of the picture that you put with all the different lenses.
Yeah.
That might help you also.
Yeah. So here is the first photo. This photo I took of a wedding. And again, just to show you that you can do things in black and white. You don't have to go in color. Black and white has this cool thing about like having contrast. So that I love that as well. So I usually try to play with black and white as much as I can. So I'm going to give you a little time to think what the MM is. Como les decía, esta foto la tomé en una boda y no nada más un tipo de MM, no vamos a hacer zoom, nada más un número. So again, you don't have to write it on the chat. Just keep it and be honest. I'll give you the answer. Just one number, not two numbers. Okay? That's a good try. Good try, Julie, but no.
What do you mean, one number? What do you mean?
So instead of 40 to 70, you have to choose 70 or 50 or 41.
Okay.
It has to be a specific number.
All right.
So there you go. I get you, but still, I want you to be
we
specific.
just want to say it. You just want us to say it, or?
No, don't say it. Just put it in your notes, and I'm gonna give you the answer. You check if you were right or wrong.
Oh, okay.
And at the end, you add up every point that you got. Okay?
Yeah.
It's gonna be tricky. It's not easy, but it's gonna be super useful for you guys. Como les decía, esta foto la tomé en una boda y para un ejemplo de que pudieran ver de que no todas las fotos tienen que ser a fuerzas en color. A veces en blanco y negro quedan re bien porque tiene ese contraste. Okay, so without further ado, first answer for this photo. It was taken at 15 millimeters. Wow. And this is the trick part because you don't have it in your notes as the image that Neri put, but this is an ultra wide angle lens. And because focal lenses below 60 millimeters are considered ultra wide angles. Sometimes they call them fish eye, depending how great the distortion is. This lens has a significantly wide field of view that the standard lenses, allowing you to capture more of the scene in a single shot. It is suitable for landscape, architecture, group photos, and situations where you need to fit more into the frame. Lente ultra gran angular. Y como les digo, es un poco que no tenían las notas que están ahí, pero póngalo ahí. Básicamente las distancias focales inferiores a 16 milímetros se consideran algunos ultra gran ángulos, ángulos ultra gran angulares. Este lente tiene un campo de visión significativamente más amplio que los lentes normales, lo que le permite capturar una mayor parte de la escena en una sola toma. Es adecuado para paisajes, arquitectura, fotografías de grupo y situaciones en las que es necesario encajar más en el marco. Okay, so for those who got it right, awesome. I know it's a trick one, but that's it. And also just to give you, I mean, just put a emphasis on, hold on, what is this? Basically gives you a lot of excitement because there's so much in this image. As you can see the floor and you can see the roof and you can see a lot of the guests. Another thing that you have to consider with this type of lenses, they will start distorting the image towards the sides. So that's another downfall of these type of lenses. They will create some type of distortion towards the edges. And probably was more, but I fixed it. We'll probably want get into fixing some of that later. But definitely when you use those type of lenses, that will be one of the factors. Some of the edges will get a little distorted. Okay, so next lens, I mean photo. So what is this photo taken with? What right? ¿Qué fue usado para tomar esta foto? Ok, y pónganle sus notas y ya cuando ven la respuesta le ponen sí o no fallé. Ok, y no se preocupen. Pam, 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 pam. Y esta foto claramente en color. This photo, color photo. Ok. Okay, hopefully everybody got theirs. Do not put it on the chat. Remember, you keep your own points because later we're gonna add more numbers. I don't want to get distracted with too many chats. So just put it and just judge yourselves. We'll trust you. Okay, so the number for this photo, it was taken at 24 millimeters. Wow. It's a wide angle lens still. It's not an ultra wide angle because it's over 16, right? This lens still offers a wide field of view, but not as dramatic. Again, dramatic, I think, is a good word to put it. Ultra wide angles definitely has this dramatic look to them, or distorted as ultra wide angle lenses. Lente gran angular, este lente aún ofrece un amplio campo de visión, pero no tan dramático ni distorsionado como los lentes ultra gran angulares, ¿verdad? Y este fue 24 milímetros. Como les digo, it has a little bit of distortion that I have probably fixed here and there, but usually it gets a wide angle and it's still somehow clean. It's not as bad as ultra wide angles, okay? Okay, hopefully everybody is doing great. And we're gonna move on to the next image. Hopefully everybody put their notes. That's also gonna help. And it's gonna be on the flyer anyways, I mean the worksheet. And here is the next image. So what was this image taken? Sorry, I couldn't show you the whole thing, but this is the image. What was this image taken? ¿A qué fue tomada esta fotografía? Okay. Is everybody ready? ¿Listos? Okay. We're in a 1, in a 2, and a 3. This was taken at 50 millimeter. And this is called a normal perspective. A 50 millimeter lens on a full frame camera. I mean, it changes, depends on the sensor. It will change that. But usually when you have lenses, they will be fixed. The distance is going to be fixed when you buy them for that specific camera. So we're not going to get into it. That closely resemble what we see with our own eyes. It's It provides a natural perspective with minimal distortion and similar angle of view to our own vision. So, perspectiva normal, un lente de 50 milímetros en una cámara de fotografía completo captura imágenes que se parecen mucho a lo que vemos con nuestros propios ojos. Proporciona una perspectiva natural con una mínima distorsión y un ángulo de visión similar al nuestro. So, the good thing is you can see from the shoes to the head, right? And I think it gives you some type of distortion. I think here, I didn't fix this, but you can see this here on the side, the wall. It looks a little bit distorted here. I don't know if it's because I fixed it or because of the lens, but sometimes you will still see some distortion with this 50 millimeter. So our eyes are not as, it's great, I guess. So that's a 50 millimeter, okay?
A little tip for those of you that might feel like you're struggling a little bit. Abraham is right in looking at the distortions, right? So if you look at the columns, they bow inward a little bit, so everything around the edges kind of has this sort of like bubbling effect. If Abraham were to go up back to the one on with the 24 millimeter, if you look at the horizon and specifically look at the stairs, you can see how they bow just a tiny bit also around the edges. And then if you look at the one before that, the 14 millimeter or 15 millimeter one, I mean, you can look at the edges and you'll see how like people's legs look extra wide, and how the angles of the lines on the floor, they really do kind of have a very high like the depth of field looks very, very wide. So that's how you can start to see visually how these different lenses and angle lengths, basically angle widths, start to affect the overall image.
Yep. And again, it's not just so you know what the photos are taken with, it's to know what camera or lenses to use to take certain photos, right? So that's what we're getting at. Okay. So let's see where we are. This is 50. Hopefully you got some of the answers right. But again, it was more of a guessing game, and the explanation is what you guys actually need. Like, this is what is going to help you. Okay. So here is the next photo. What was this photo taking at? What is the millimeters? ¿A qué milímetros fue tomada esta foto? Okay. Is everybody ready? Everybody has their answer? Okay, let's move on to the answer. This photo was taken at 70 millimeters. These telephoto lenses, right? This particular lens is where the normal perspective ends and the telephoto begins. I call it the sweet spot. Perfect for portrait photography, it gives the body a nice symmetry, making the 24 millimeter to 70 millimeter lens the most versatile lens, the must buy. And this is my suggestion. If you're going to buy a camera of these fancy cameras, just buy the body, don't buy the kit, because sometimes you will get a kit lens, which means it's a nice lens, but it's not the best one for that. It works and everything. But since you're going to be using this lens a lot, the 24 to 70, I will suggest just to buy the body and buy the best lens you can buy, because this definitely is going to be the bread and butter for taking photographies, because you could take wide angle photos, normal perspective, which is the angle we have for our vision, and still had a little bit of that telephoto with the 70, right? So teleobjetivo, este lente en particular es el donde termina la perspectiva normal y comienza el teleobjetivo. Yo lo llamo el punto ideal, perfecto para fotografía de retratos, le da al cuerpo una agradable simetría, lo que hace que el lente de 24 milímetros a 70 milímetros sea el lente más versátil, el que se debe de comprar. Pues lo estaba diciendo en inglés, que si van a comprar una cámara, les recomiendo, compren nada más el cuerpo de la cámara y después compren el mejor que puedan de este lente, porque es el lente que van a usar más, porque llega desde el wide angle hasta normal, la vista que usamos nosotros humanos, hasta un poquito de telefoto. So este lente definitivamente si van a gastar, es donde tienen que gastar. Again, as I was telling you, this one has a better symmetry to the image, right? But still, remember, you cannot see the fit, right? So you get some of it. You don't get the whole body, right? With this type of lens at this distance, right? So that's another thing to consider, right? So again, this is the type of image. I think the body perspective, it gets more of a symmetry to it. That's why I love this type of lens, this range, which is the 70, right? So just put a foot for thought on that one. So this is the next image. What is this image taken at? ¿A qué fue tomada esta imagen de MM? Okay. And again, any guess is good at this point. And again, the whole thing is so you guys get the information. Here's the bottom, okay? So just wanted to see the whole photo. Okay. Hopefully everybody has the answer. So here is the answer for this. This was taken at 210 millimeters. This is telephoto lens. Telephoto lens offers a higher focal length, allowing you to zoom in a distant subject without losing image quality. One of the lenses that I love personally is 70-400, where I could take precious moments without being in the way. Again, like this photo, the thing of doing like weddings and stuff like that, I didn't want to be in between the bride and the groom. I could be a little far apart and don't get in the way and still capture a moment. That's kind of the details of it. Okay. En español, el teleobjetivo ofrece una distancia focal más alta, lo que le permite acercar sujetos distantes sin perder calidad de imagen. Uno de los lentes que me encanta, digamos, es personal, este 70-400 milímetros, porque puedo tomar momentos preciosos sin estorbar. Y este lente lo tenía, ya no lo tengo, pero I miss that lens. So this is 210. Again, this lens was a zoom lens. It goes from 70-400, but still, I took this one at 210. So basically from here to there, I took it in 210, right? Because zooms, you can choose the distance, right? So we're gonna move on to the next photo. What was this photo taken at? ¿A qué fue tomada esta foto? Okay, I'm gonna give you a little bit of time to guess this one. Okay, I'm gonna give you the answer for this one, okay? This was taken at 600 millimeters. Telephoto lens, great lens to take photos of wildlife. This one is 200-600 millimeter lens. So it was taken at 600, but basically the maximum of this lens. Remember, the safety of you and the animal is important, as well as catching the subject unaware. And I say that because sometimes you see people trying to take photos of, let's say, a buffalo, and they're getting close with their phones, like, because they think National Geographic people are like next to the animals taking photos. And no, that's dangerous. They're usually taking photos either from far apart or with trap cameras. So be mindful of that if you're taking photos of animals. For example, this one, it was far, like the coyote didn't know I was there. It just knew that I was there, but it knew that I wasn't a threat because I was far apart. That's why the ear is pointing at where I'm going. Like I was shooting from here, so the ear is pointing at me. But it know that I wasn't close enough for catching him or hurting him. And I wasn't also in any danger, right? Because I was far from the subject. And teleobjetivo, excelente lente para tomar fotografías de la vida salvaje. Este es de 200 a 600 milímetros. Recuerden que su seguridad y la del animal es importante, además de tomar el sujeto desprevenido. Como estaba diciendo, hay gente que trata de tomar fotos de animales súper cerca y pensando que National Geographic toma estas fotos enfrente de los animales y no, porque es peligroso. So, piensen que un lente que llega a larga distancia es la forma de llegar a animales. Sobre todo, tampoco se van a dar cuenta que están ahí. Y no solo animales, pero también pueden usar para tomar fotos de gente o cosas así sin que sepan que están ahí. Again, another thing to think about with telephotos are that they sandwich distances. For example, here, also a telephoto, you don't have too much of a depth of field. I'm going to explain more to depth of field later, but basically they look like everything's close. Like that's why you see these huge moons next to things, because these lenses are able to sandwich the distance. So everything looks like almost the same scale, but closer, right? So that's another thing to think about with telephoto lenses. Okay. And we got one more image, I think. What was this image taken at? Or with what lens? I will give you that as well. ¿Con qué mm fue tomado esta fotografía? Okay. Un poquito más de tiempo les voy a dar. Okay, let's see what was this taken with. This was taken with the same lens at the beginning, a 15 millimeter. But this lens has another function, which is macro lens. So multi-camera setups, and this talks about your phone because some of the phones have that also. A macro lens that allows you to capture extra close-up shots of small subjects like flowers or insects, revealing intricate details, meaning you can focus as close to the camera as possible, while lenses, the photographer, other lenses, the photographer has to keep a considerable distance from the subject, right? So you're not gonna be able to focus if you're too close with other lenses, but with this type of lenses, you can get as close as possible. So you can see the pollen here, right? So that's the feature that's called macro, right? Lente macro, algunas configuraciones de múltiples cámaras. Esto se refiere múltiple, como les digo, al teléfono, que tiene varias cámaras. Pero también las otras cámaras tienen esta función, algunos lentes. Incluyen un lente macro que le permite capturar primeros planos extremos de sujetos pequeños como flores o insectos, revelando detalles intricados. Esto significa que puedes enfocar lo más cerca posible de la cámara. Mientras que otros lentes, el fotógrafo debe mantenerse a una distancia considerable del sujeto. So, with this camera, you are able to get close to the subject and still get focus, right? So you have to look for macro when you want that kind of ability in a lens, okay? Not all lenses have that. Okay. So just a little extra info on what we just covered. This is just understanding focal length. This is what's happening. That's why you see more of the image and less of the image. As you see, this is the the distance between this point to the sensor, right? So the closer it is to the sensor, the more angle are you gonna see of the image, right? So you're gonna see more of the landscape if you think about it. And once you have a longer distance from the sensor to the point of conversion where you can see the focus, the angle is going to be narrow. So you're going to be able to see less of the entirety of the thing, right? But you're going to be able to see farther, right? So this is what's happening, right? So that's just otra información que les estaba diciendo, que este es para estar la distancia focal. Esto es básicamente lo que está diciendo que le memen, que entre más cerca está del sensor, más van a ver de la escena, como la landscape, Y entre más lejos está el sensor, van a ver menos, pero más lejos. O sea, van a acercarse más al sujeto. ¿Ok? So, let's talk about focus and depth of field. Okay? So, depth of field is the distance between the closest and the farthest object in a photo that appears acceptably sharp, right? It's where you start seeing sharp images, right? Like in the macro, you were able to focus really close, right? And that's the distance of close. And I'm going to go into it a little bit, okay? Enfoque y profundidad de campo. La profundidad de campo es la distancia entre los objetos más cercanos y más lejanos en una fotografía que parece aceptable y nítida, o sea, que está enfocado, ¿verdad? Y here I'm gonna do a little bit of exercise so you guys can see how this works. And don't worry about like too much about notes for now. You'll have the pamphlet later on the class. But let me stop sharing this one so I can show you the exercise for this, okay? So this is what we're talking about. Whoever can see, let me put the chat again because I cannot see it from here. Here you go. Okay, here it goes. So this photo I took, it's actually multiple photos and I'm gonna get into it, but basically it's the wedding party, right? Like you have the bridesmaids and the groomsmen. And I took this photo from the front of them, right? So I'm basically sitting in front of them and they're in a line. So that's what they're all in focus, right? So that's what's happening, right? So here it's what we're talking about. Hold on, this is the wrong thing. I'm showing the wrong, hold on. Which one am I showing? Am I showing the Photoshop, Luis, or the other one?
This looks like
Bridge?
bridge, yeah.
Okay, never mind. Chose the wrong one. Hold on. Here you go. There you go. Sorry. It's the same image, just I can do stuff here. Let me open it. And again, we're gonna get into Photoshop later, but let me just talk about this image. Hopefully you guys can see the whole thing. Okay. So again, I took this photo from the front. Tomé esta foto del frente y básicamente todos están enfocados, ¿verdad? So this is what we're talking about, depth of field and focus. So let's see if I was to be, hold on, taking the photo from this side here, over here to the left corner. So instead of being in the front of them, I was taking the photo from the side. And if I wanted to focus on the bride and the groom, I will be able to see this in focus. This will be the area that will be in focus. And how much of it is the depth of field? Focus is basically you can see everything sharp. Depth of field is basically how much of it you can see, right? This space. And it will change, it depends on the lenses of things like that. And it will be less dramatic. This one I do it like, so you can see a little more of what I'm talking about, but it'll be less dramatic. It will be a more transition once you start using the lenses. But this is what you will see, right? This is what will be in focus and the rest will not be, because this is what we're getting in focus. The rest of the people will not be. And again, this is, I'm shooting from this side, right? And let's say we are focusing on the bridesmaids, right? They will be in focus and the rest of the people will not be, right? So that's how will work, right? How the depth of field will be. They will be in focus, the rest of the people will not be. And same thing with the handsome groomsmaid. They will be in focus and the rest of the people will not. That's what we took the photo from the front. So because everybody's the same line, so I was able to take the photo in focus for everybody, right? And just another thing to consider is if we were to change where the angle of the photographer is, let's see, to the left corner, instead of being at the bottom, like straight, there will be a little bit of angle to it. It will also change how the focal depth of field will work, right? it will be like this. It will also have an angle. You will be able to focus here, but you see like the almost the side of the shoulder will start being out of focus, right? So when you're taking photos, you see like, why is not getting everything in focus? It's because of that. So the angle of also will change if you change where you're shooting from, okay? So that's kind of what the depth of field and focus is. Any questions for this? Okay. So far, so good, I guess. Let me stop sharing this. Close. And let's get back to the.
This is a lot of technical, vocabulary and all, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. We don't mind stopping and explaining a little bit more. I guess everybody's getting it.
Everybody's golden. I like it. And so here's perspective in poetry. So as a literary device, point of view, and acronym, I don't really care, is the concentrate vantage point of the teller of the poem. Keep in mind that the author is not to be assumed as the speaker or narrator of the poem. And this happens in many of the poems, like open mics and things like that. People in the public will go to the person reading the poem like, oh, I didn't know you went through this, blah, blah, I'm sorry for you. Like, no, this was a poem of a subject. It doesn't mean that the writer had lived through that or felt that way. You don't have to assume the point of view was from the person speaking, right? So point of view is essentially the camera lens providing the best angle for the poem's voice. The point of view informs the reader of who the speaker is, whether the work is personal, a persona, or a personification poem. And this is the two things that we're going to talk about. A persona poem is a poem in which the poet speaks through an assumed voice. And again, assume. It can be the actual writer can say like, oh, this is me, Luis. I'm writing about this, right? I'm talking about this. This is me speaking, right? But also Luis can talk about like, if he was Trump, right? No, like it'll be a little unlikely, but he could, right? And it doesn't mean he is Trump, right? And then we have the personification is the endowment of inanimate objects like lamps, like Disney, have these lamps dancing, animals or abstract concepts with animated or human living qualities, basically, right? Let's say the time is eating its son and consuming us all. Like time is not eating us, but we're giving the sense of like the time is eating, right? So that's kind of what's talking about, right? It's like giving personification to things or concepts, right? Or animals, right? Like the lion was friendly and so on. It was chatting with the hyenas or something like that, right? En perspectiva en la poesía, como recurso literario, el punto de vista es el punto de vista en el que se concentra el narrador del poema, teniendo en cuenta que no se debe asumir que el autor es el hablante o narrador del poema. Como les estaba diciendo en inglés, que a veces vamos a eventos o alguien está leyendo y la gente se acerca y le dice, no sabía que habías pasado por esto y que siento que bla, bla. Y el escritor dice, no, esta historia no es de mí, estoy nada más hablando de algo que escribí en otra perspectiva o de otra persona, ¿verdad? El punto de vista es esencial en el lente de la cámara que proporciona el mejor ángulo para la voz del poema. Como las cámaras, vamos a usarlo en forma literaria, ¿verdad? El punto de vista informa al lector quién es el hablante. Si la obra es una persona o un poema de personificación. Estas son las dos tipos que estamos hablando el día de hoy. Un poema persona es un poema en el que el poeta habla a través de una voz asumida. Por ejemplo, estamos diciendo, si Luis está escribiendo acerca de sus cosas personales o de él mismo, pues sí está hablando de Luis, pero él también puede hablar como si fuera Trump o no sé, o Lincoln o no sé quién, otra persona, ¿verdad? No se refiere que el escritor está hablando de su punto de vista, fuerzas. La personificación es la dotación de objetos inanimados, animales o conceptos abstractos con cualidades animadas o humanas. Como estamos diciendo, todos los cuentos de Disney tratan de esto, ¿verdad? Que una lámpara te está hablando, que una lámpara tiene sentimientos, claramente no, pero es la forma en que están dando personificación a un objeto o a un concepto, como estaba diciendo, el tiempo nos come a todos y no nos recuerda a nadie. Claro que el tiempo no hace eso, pero nosotros estamos dando esa personificación al tiempo, ¿verdad? So, any questions so far? ¿Alguna pregunta hasta ahora? No, okie dokies. We're golden, I guess. So for this, I'm gonna ask of your help. Let me change some to get a little closer. I think 220 will work. So, oops, it's a little bit bigger. But this is a photo I took and I wrote a poem for it. So I have it in Spanish and English. So whoever wants to give it a go, please give it a go. ¿Sí lo pueden ver, por cierto?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. Okay. Whoever wants to do it, either raise your hands or put in the chat. I don't know.
Looks like Nettie.
Okay, Nettie, go for the English or the Spanish. Up to you.
Let's start with English. All the abacus
Do
in the
that.
world could not save me from the hordes of numbers thrown at this poor soul. Let me just stroll up into my desk and reminisce on the good old days where 1 + 2 = 3. But instead, I'm here, still 3, for I was not quick enough to look into my classmates' results, and as a result, I have a date with Mrs. Hanley till May. Title Detention by
Thank you.
Abraham Henry. That was funny.
Thank
I
you very
like
much. Thank you very much. And before we move on to what you guys think about the poem, we're gonna just give it a go in Spanish. So aquí está la versión en español. El poema fue escrito en inglés, pero como les digo, estamos en bilingüe, so lo pusimos también en español. So, ¿quién se quiere aventar este poema?
I can do it if you want me to. I mean, there's nobody
Sure,
else.
go for it. Go for it.
Todos los ábacos del mundo, no pude salvarme de las hordas de números arrojados a esta pobre alma. Déjame acurrucarme en mi escritorio y recordar en los buenos viejos tiempos, donde 1 + 2 eran iguales a 3. Pero en lugar de eso, estoy aquí hasta las 3, porque no fui lo suficientemente rápido para mirar los resultados de mi compañero de clase. Y como resultado, tengo cita con la señorita Hansley hasta mayo.
Muchas gracias. El título de este poema se llama Detención. So what do you guys think about this poem? ¿Qué piensan acerca de este poema? River says, it makes me smile. Erika is realistic. Yeah. I guess we have a lot of math enthusiasts here. From, where is it from? Second line. Oh, yeah, wrong. Yeah, it was from. My bad. Got it. Yeah. All the abacus in the world could not save me from the hordes of numbers thrown at this poor soul. let me just scroll up into my desk and reminisce of the good old days where 1 + 2 were equals 3. But instead I am here till 3, for I was not quick enough to look into my classmates' results. And as a result, I have a date with Mrs. Hensley till May. Title detention. So what do you guys think? Jimmy? We have Julie.
It's the purgatory of school, and you know, you probably didn't like math, so now you have to like stay there. And I think it's like it's a little bit of a painful poem because
Okay.
we all have felt that.
Thanks. And again, you assuming I'm not gonna math. Remember,
Right.
the writer is not the person speaking.
It's hard to
that's
like
what we,
disconnect.
yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it goes to, for example, this photo I had already, but I decided to use it for this lecture because I wanted to show the point of view of a student of that specific age, right? And go into its head and think about like, okay, this is what I'm looking at right now. I look at myself in trouble. Let me explain to you what's happening. Oh, Nettie, that's a cool feature. The smile. I like that. Okay, we have because I don't think of Abraham of in a time that those desks and the clothing were yeah, definitely this is a different time. And if you think about it, also the book over there is about arithmetic, which that's what I also wanted to go into the math. Yeah. The use of the third to mean the time and the math equation. Yeah, witty. Then again, with classmates' results and as a result. Repetition used intentionally. Definitely, yeah. Oh, San Juanita says that these desks are more like my time. Yeah, my desks were wooden too, but they didn't have this fancy thing on the sides. 1910s. Wow. I don't know. This was from like a museum in, I don't think it was Pomona, but it was towards that area. It was like a museum of things that happened there. Let me go back to our original view. Okay, 150. There you go. So let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move on from the math. So angles, so ángulos, básicamente. So what do you guys think about this photo? What do you look at? Ooh, somebody's cooking something. I am a pebble. Oh, fall. Yeah. From below to up, definitely. Yeah. Good. Yeah, definitely different point of view for this one, right? And the reason I wanted to show you this one specifically, it's because Dracula's gravesite, wow, used to depict the trees as a massive and almost unspraying symmetrical clean. Thank you. And I like that you say massive trees because that's what I wanted to get at. These are actually small trees.
Oh, wow.
So the point of view helps to show a different point of view, right? Like the angle tells you a different point of view, right? So it thinks this is a massive trees, right? In reality, when you change the perspective, these are bonsai trees, right? And if you go from the top, you also have a different point of view, right? And the photo is not as has some flaws here and there, but that's what I want to show you. Like depends where you're shooting, it's going to change how you look at things, right? So always think about the angle that you're taking the photo from, right? So always move around the subject to see what's the best angle, especially to tell the story that you want to tell. You want to tell a story, for example, I wanted to tell a story about a student. I went and set where the student will sit, right? And show you that. Or if I want to show you a different story of the student, I can shoot it from a different angle. So it depends of what you want to tell with your photography, right? So with that, this is another photo. And same thing, I took this photo. Actually, I went on top of the tree and took this one. And again, I wanted to show a different angle because this one will show more of the turn of the dancer part of the bubble making. You can see the hand. So you can see more of the circular motion of things. Instead of I was shooting from the front, I wouldn't be able to get that type of motion to the photo, right? So always try to shoot from different angles and be safe. I mean, sometimes I don't climb a tree if you don't want to, but I do that. And here is another photo. This is for German photographer Chris Hansler, photographer Alemán Christopher Hansley. And I want to show you this one because this one's about being creative with your angles and how you're shooting things, right? Here, I love this photo because I think he's just using one of those traffic stoppers from the streets. Those are the blocks that stop cars from coming to a certain section. And he placed himself as he was like in a dangerous, precarious place, looking down. So esta foto la tomó como si se fuera a caer, ¿verdad? Y la usé porque me gusta que traten de usar elementos nuevos y sean creativos cuando tomen fotos. Diferentes ángulos, diferentes perspectivas, ¿verdad? This is all about perspective, how you're looking at things. It looks like it's going, like at this tall building, it's going to fall, right? But it's not. Se ve como si se fuera a caer de un edificio alto, pero no. Y él hace muchas de esas fotos. So again, be unique, try to get fun photos, interesting photos, be creative with them. Yeah, that's what the photo gives you. Yeah, it feels a little terrifying, even the way he's looking down. So it's definitely what was he's going for. And here is another photo because I wanted to show you that this photo, it's really cool too as well. Again, it's from the top. This photo was created by Ako Salemi. Fue tomada, no sé si él es iraní o la fotógrafa fue tomada en Irán. This is taken 2015 mobile phones category, Sony World Photography Awards. Ako Salemi, Iran, category telephoto mobile 2015 Sony World Photography Awards. And again, just wanted to show you can take photos with your phone. And let's go into his website. So I wanted to get you a little bit to get to know this guy. Let me stop sharing this and we'll get into his website. I'm going to put the website also in the chat so you can scan also if you want to check him out. Let's see. Again, just copy and paste on your browser. And let me share. Where is too much stuff in my screen? Hold on a second. Oh, too much stuff. Hold on a second. Let me close some of this stuff. Hopefully I can share it. Hold on. Too much. Oh, here you go. So here we are. This is the website. So Eko Salimi was born in 1981 in Bukhan, Kurdistan, Iran. Over the last 10 years, he has worked as a photojournalist for several important Iran newspapers. 3 years ago, he joined the Instagram and started to immerse himself in the community of mobile photography. First, he photographed single images on the street of his hometown Tehran. Then over the last year, he has progressed by making specific stories for my Instagram account. These have included trips to several other cities in Iran, also Turkey, Iraq, and Afghanistan. During this time, he has also had a successful solo exhibition of the Instagram photography, and he is one of the founder members of an inspirational mobile photography group called Hikari Creative on Instagram. One of his pics was amongst the best 29 images publishing and Instagram selected by Time magazine. If you can see, again, most of these are phone photos, right? And again, look at him. He's also taking photos from different angles, again, from the top here, from the right hand, from the bottom corner, you can see the hand and then the other person, right? So again, you can take definitely great photos with your phone, just have to be patient. Not all of these might not be on the phone, but most of them should be, okay? Let's get back to the class, but yeah, okay. Okay, let's get back to it.
So River
somebody-
asked a question in the chat. If I write an ekphrastic poem about your tree picture, how do I credit it?
Well, for these, I think you had to talk to the person who owns the photo first. For example, that one was my photo, so I used it. But for now, I wanted to get you guys to do your own photos. So for that, I guess hold on asking for photographers, because for this class, we're gonna try to do as many photos of our own as possible. But yeah, definitely, if you want to have that kind of interaction with another artist, you have to ask for permission and then figure out if it needs to be compensated or not. But always try to do that. Okay.
I would also add to that you would ask the other artist only if you're hoping to reproduce the photo as well.
Yeah.
Like you could write the ekphrastic poem and just simply say, after a photo by Abraham Jaramillo, and we wouldn't know as the audience what that photo is, but you would at least still in that way be acknowledging that this was inspired by a photograph taken by Abraham.
Yeah, but you cannot use the photo. That's yeah.
Yeah.
You can definitely talk about different art pieces. Like, okay, I went to the museum and saw this painting. You can talk about the painting, but you cannot use it in your book unless, right?
Yeah.
You get
And
permission.
then San Juanita also has a question about lenses.
Yes, bring it on.
I know I'm going to sound like I know a lot about this.
No,
but
that's all right.
However, I've always wanted to learn. Of course, at the beginning, I was a little bit confused. So I see that you have like from 12 to 35 millimeters, from 40 to 70. Does that mean that's one lens? Like 12 to 35 is one lens?
No, so that's kind of the distance they call them, that type of lens. But definitely some lenses have that gap. Like you can have a lens that has from 25 to 70. So it depends on the lens, but not all lenses. I mean, that's not a list of one lens. It's a list of type of lenses, right? For example, the wide angles that we have, I use as an example, the 24 to 70 that I have. But that doesn't mean the 70 it's a wide angle. It just means that the lens comes from, like, gives you the range from 24 to 70. But again, you have to check the mm. So that's the good thing about today. You guys learned. So when you guys looking for a lens, it will tell you mm. So it will tell you from what to what. Some lenses will have only one. It will be stuck in 11 or 15, or depends on the lens. And some will be zoom lenses. Zoom lenses basically are that has a range from one to the other, right? That's what it is.
One to another number, like 40 to 70, something like that?
Yeah. It depends. So there's different types, not all of the same. So it could be different weird numbers. It just depends. But the 24 to 70 is definitely like the most known range for zoom lenses.
24 to what?
Sorry? 24 to 70. And again, the notes are gonna be also on the class if you need them later as well. But definitely, yeah, you have to check what the millimeters are in each lens. And don't buy them now. We're gonna go more into different things during the class. Yeah,
I need to learn a little bit more about photography. What I wanted to know was, So 24 to 70 is just one lens.
Yes, that one will be one lens.
That's one lens. Okay, so it's not 12 is not one and 30. Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah,
Because
it will just depend like what type of lens is it. But the list that we gave you guys, that's just those ranges, they're the ranges that the lens will be considered a wide angle or a telephoto or a normal and so on. That's what it kind of means. Okay.
it will be interesting to learn all this stuff because I love photography and I have supposedly I have a good phone. I mean, it's already like it's a 12, what is it, 12 Pro or something? And it does take
So
a
here you go.
picture.
So
I really
each
need
lens
to,
will have its own thing, right? Like, but this one is telling you more about like what are the ranges well that will be considered wide angle, right? From 12 to 35, those are considered wide angle. And in between these numbers, there will be lenses that probably are from 15 to 24 or so on. It just depends. But this is more of the type of lens, no one lens, okay?
yeah, okay. Well,
Sure, okay.
and I know I had another question, but I can't remember. I should have written it down.
That's all right. When you have the question, I'll be here.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Awesome. Okay, let's see where we are.
My audio keeps dropping in and out, so I'm not sure if you covered this, Abraham, but Mojde asked about cell phones, and Julie asked if you can use your phone for taking your own photos. Of course, you can use your phone.
Yes.
You know, you do not have to use a professional grade or even a point and shoot camera. And any kind of camera that you have available to you is perfect.
Yeah, and that's why we have this, for example, this photographer we just covered right now, which Ako Salemi, he uses his phone for these photos, okay? Like this photo, he took it with a phone, right?
And, you know, I also added in the chat that, you know, cell phones will, you know, the focal length that you have available to you on a cell phone is going to vary from model to model.
Yep.
But most cell phones will have at least a wide angle lens, which is usually around a 24 millimeter. And then they'll also have at least a what they call normal lens, which is oftentimes like a 50, 55 millimeter lens. And if you have a cell phone that also has a telephoto lens, those telephoto lenses are usually about 85 millimeters to 90 millimeters.
Yeah, so as you can see, the setup on your camera, all these cameras that you see, one will be wide angle, the other one will be a normal. So telephoto depends on the lens. I mean, the camera, the phone that you have, you will have different type of cameras, right? So there's features on your phone that will tell you, okay, which one you want to use, okay?
Yeah, and like the iPhone, again, it depends on which model iPhone you have.
Yeah.
Because like the iPhone Pro, that usually has the 3 lenses on the back plus the selfie lens. The selfie lens that's on the front of the phone, like on the screen side, that's usually like a 22 millimeter lens. Whereas on the back you have, I think it's like a 24 millimeter, again, like about a 50 or 55 millimeter, and usually it's like a 75 or anywhere between 75 to 90 millimeter for the telephoto. That I'm aware of, no cell phones have fisheye lenses, but you can buy attachments that can go on a cell phone's lens to turn it into a fisheye. And the fisheye is the type that's super distorted. It's usually a wide angle, something like a 14 millimeter, but it has that effect where everything looks like it's within a bubble. That's why it's called a fisheye.
Exactly.
So yeah. And then a basic iPhone, if you have like, say, just a standard iPhone, you probably have just 2 lenses on the back, a wide angle and a normal.
And you have to check your phone, and you can go online and say, put the name of your phone and say, like, what cameras does it have? And it will tell you. And again, you don't have to know specifically the MM for that. You just have to look for, like, what is the look that this lens is giving me?
Yeah.
Right? That's what you're looking for, right?
Yeah. You just, you know, play with the lens itself, and then always, because I personally practice street photography, I tend to think that the best zoom lens is your 2 feet, meaning if you want to be closer to your subject, then you just walk up and get closer to your subject. And there are different ways in which you can get interesting photos as Abraham has already shown us, by using different angles, whether that be overhead, from down below. You can shoot from the waist, as they say, meaning you shoot below eye level. So there's different ways in which you can manipulate even the limitations of the lenses that are on your cell phones.
Yeah. Okay, and since now we have a photo already taken, so once we have a photo, una vez que ya tenemos la foto, ya la tomamos, once we have taken the photo, let's talk about a little Photoshop and Snapseed. Those are the two programs that we're gonna cover for now. Let me open this, stop sharing this, and start getting into some more photography. Let me open it first.
By the way, it's worth mentioning that Snapseed is an app that you can download on either Android or iPhone cell phones. It works obviously on smartphones, but it also works on tablets. So if you have a tablet, you can download it for your tablet as well.
It's free.
And it's free. Photoshop, you can also actually download an app version for certain types of Android devices, and definitely for the iPhone or the iPad. It's free to download, but Photoshop, the app version, you have a limited time trial. So if you want to use it for more than just a week or 2 weeks, I think is when the trial is, you would have to pay for the subscription. But there's discounts if you go to the DSTL Arts website, actually. So you can get a small discount, and at no extra cost to you, DSTL Arts gets a small bonus for
being San Juanita. The first app that Luis was talking about, I think, was Snapseed, which is also free, and then we have Photoshop. But now we're gonna start with actual Photoshop. Let me share my screen. Oh, hold on. No, that's not it. Is it? No, yeah, it's someone. Hold on. So again, once, especially if you use a fancy camera, sometimes we'll have a specific file that you can only open with certain apps like Photoshop. So, but you can also set up your camera just to take the photos on JPEG. But basically what it has is basically a ton of more information. When it's raw in this type of format, basically means it has more of the range of things. So we're not gonna get into much of that right now, but this is the wrong one. Yeah, and I'm choosing the wrong. Is this one? Which one are we looking at, Luis? Photoshop or Bridge?
That looks like Bridge.
Again. That's what happens when you have too many screens. Okay, Photoshop. I put Photoshop, but maybe it's this one. Oh, yes. I think that's it. You can see it, Luis? Or not?
Yeah, that's Photoshop.
Okay. So that one, basically, for now, we're not going to go into much some of the things that you can use. But once you open it with that kind of program straight from your camera to that, you will be able to open it in Photoshop, right? And again, we're going to get into more of the other features later. But right now, we're going to concentrate on some little features so you can start playing with this type of programs if you want to. So this one, because it comes straight from the camera, we'll go into this mini app that comes with Photoshop. You can start working on it. Then you will press open, which is in the bottom. You will open, and it will open it on Photoshop. You can see it, Luis? Just trying to make sure everybody can see it. Okay.
Yep.
So here it is, the photo as straight from the camera. I haven't done anything to it. I just wanted to show you a couple of things that you can use, right? First, we're gonna go into this, see where the lasso is. This lasso here in the left, lasso tool. I'll use this one. I click it, and then I click right, and it's gonna give you a couple of options. Hold on. Sometimes it has a lock on the layers over here in the bottom corner. You just have to take the lock out here. See, you can see there was a thing that you can click. It's like a lock, so you don't touch the photo. But since we're touching it, just take it out. So you press here, and it gives you the free transform options. So after you click right, you go to free transform options, and you will click it, and it will automatically select the entire photo. You can select parts, but for this, I just want you to use this, okay? So that, then you will be able to move from, you go to the corner, and it will have these kind of 2 arrows here. You can see in the bottom corner, and you will be able to move it. And I use this one just so if I took the photo in the wrong angle, if I have a crooked angle to it or something, I will adjust it this way, right? So let's say I want a little more towards that. I'll fix it, right? And it still has this empty space on the bottom and the right couple of spaces because you have moved the image, right? But for that, I will use the same thing. I will use the same lasso tool, click, free transform, and for that, I will use this. See this thing here? You will press Alt, and Alt I'll click because I want everything to stay the same ratio so it doesn't move weirdly. So I'll press Alt and then start dragging up, and it will increase it, but without changing anything, like making it weird, having the same proportions. So that is just for me that I can fill up the edges that I moved and they were empty. Then I click, and then it's down for that. That's one thing if you just want to move your image around, okay? The other one is, again, we'll press the lasso tool, click to the right, and instead we're gonna go for free transform. And once you have these, you will click again to the right, and where you see perspective, you will go down to perspective, click it, and from here you can start dragging the corners, and it will change a little bit of this. That's if you want to adjust it or make it more dramatic. You can go from here or to the sides. You feel like it's an angle. You can do some of that. Don't do too much of that because it kind of looks a little fake if you do too much. But to little adjustments, it will definitely be nice. For example, you feel like you took the angle too much down, you can make it like that or like that. For this, just for the purpose of showing you, I will leave it at that. And again, as the same thing as I did, I can either do change that and make it bigger, or I can crop it. Click here to the right with this thing, crop, and then start making the photo smaller. That's if you want to do that way. And I end up with a photo that's a little different than the previous one we have, okay? So that's for Photoshop, just a little taste of it. Later on, we will move into it, but this is just little things that you can do with it. You can move the photo around, you can move the perspective a little bit. And again, then you go into File, Save As, and you save it as a JPEG because it will save it as a different or as a regular format, depends on what you want to do. We'll probably go into formats later. But for now, just Control Alt S and go to Save As JPEG, and that will save it as a JPEG. Okay, and there you go. You save it, you have that photo, and that's the one you can send to Luis as a JPEG. Okay, you wanted to use it for the scene. So we're gonna stop for this one. We're gonna stop with Photoshop for now, and we're gonna move on to Snapseed. Okay, let me see it. Can do. Oops. Oops. Okay, here you go. So this one is I'm aiming more for if you want to use your phone. Since you can have this app for free on your phone, this is definitely a good tool that you can use. Again, you download Snapseed, and since I'm not using my phone right now, I use screenshots so I can give you a little tour of how this works. Okay, so let's say you took a photo where Luis, can you see it? I'm just making sure.
Yeah, I can see it.
So this is how it's gonna be the photo once you took it with your phone. you're gonna be able to open it, and the album, usually it's album. I don't know, my phone works that way. And once you open the phone, you go to the bottom, and we're gonna have these options. These options will have this little thing that has like a pen. Basically, that's for editing. So you click it there, and it will give you options. Depends on what kind of programs you have on your phone. This one, I have a bunch of programs, but this is the one you're gonna go for. Once you download Snapseed, it's gonna appear there, right? Snapseed, and then you click it, it's gonna open. This is how it looks like, right? This is kind of the same photo I took, right? With the other one on the camera, but I'm using it as an example. So this is how it's gonna look up. Then you're gonna click Tools, and here it has an option called Rotate. You're gonna click on Rotate and play with the adjustments. Usually you're gonna be able to use it with your hands, right? You're gonna start moving it. I think it's sometimes a dial, sometimes you have to touch the screen. It depends. And you're gonna move it to left, to right, to adjust like we did in Photoshop, right? And after you're done with that, you click this, what's it called, the check mark to mention the program. I'm done with that specific tool. You click it, and it's gonna give you back to the main menu. Then you click again Tools, and this time you're gonna choose Perspective. And the same thing we did with the Photoshop file. You click it, and it's gonna give you these options again. You can play around with them. You can move them around. You can make it like look more dramatic if you want to, or if it is you don't feel it's too straight, you can probably play with it and adjust it so it will look straight. Especially when you do an architecture, I think this helps a lot. Once you're done, you're satisfied with that, you again go for the check mark. You click it, and that will be done for that. See how it changed from here to there. See the perspective change. Okay. And then you can also use crop, because sometimes we use that tool in that program. It will create some weird things on the sides. Those are the gaps that are created. So for that, you can use crop and crop those parts that you don't like. And there you go. You play with it. You play with the cropping of it. And then you click the same thing, done, the check mark again. And that will give you them. Once you're done with all those adjustments, and those are little adjustments, right? Just if the photo needs it, go for it. And then you click Done, and that'll be the end for that, right? So easy tools for that. You can use it on your phone, or you can use it in the computer, it depends. But those are for Snapseed, and the first one we covered was Photoshop, okay? Any questions for that? Okay.
It's all clear. It's pretty interesting.
Okay, yeah, I try to do step by step, especially you follow them, it should be fine.
Yeah, that was a lot of information, but I also, in the chat, wanted to make sure that we addressed, for anybody that didn't see it, the question about alternatives, open source alternatives to Photoshop. I'm not 100% sure, or Snapseed, but Photoshop specifically was the question. I'm not 100% sure of all of the ones that are out there, but if I remember correctly, there's one called GIMP that is still available, that you can use kind of as a Photoshop alternative. That one I believe is web-based. There's also, if you're working on tablets, there's one called Procreate, which is very, very similar to Photoshop, although, it's only available, to my knowledge, on tablets. So like on an iPad or any kind of Android tablet. And it has a one-time download fee. So you pay for it to download it, but then after that, you don't have to pay a continuous subscription like you do with Photoshop. And then I think there's one called Pixelmator, but I might be wrong about that.
Yeah, that's a bunch of them.
Yeah, either way, there are a bunch that are out there, but it's also really important to realize that even the native photo editor that comes baked into the software of your phone, your cell phone, even that has some basic editing tools like filters and cropping that you can use. In the end, the real trick is to get the shot without having to anticipate using a photo editor. Really play with your angle when you're taking the shot from the very beginning. And then when it comes to editing using either Snapseed or Photoshop or any other app, you have just very minimal light edits that you're going to be making.
Yeah, the lighter, the better.
Yeah.
And again, those are just, if you feel like icky about this, you cannot go back to Paris and fix this photo of the Eiffel Tower because it's crooked. Then you use these things and you will fix your photo, right?
Yeah.
This is the reason we, but again, I'm gonna say download, even if you're not gonna download the Photoshop, download the Snapseed. And again, I'll use these ones because one is free and the other one free for a time. I mean, but it's still, you're able to use them and they're super easy to use once you get the hang of it. And again, those are the ones I use, so I can help you with these ones. This one I use a lot in my phone, like the Snapseed. I have it on my phone, even though there's a time that I had the Photoshop I could use on my phone, but this is the easiest for phones.
Yeah.
Any questions before we move on to the most exciting part, which is homework? Yeah, I know you guys came for this. This is what you came for. Homework. This has a couple of things that we're gonna ask you to do. First, take a photo thinking on perspective. Who is speaking or the subject of the photo? With a fancy camera or cell phone camera? Or if you can't, an emphasis on can't, so I'm trying to push you to try it. You don't have to take great photos, you can use your phone again. But you can, for a certain reason, you're confined to your room or something, that's perfect. You can use an old photo that you have taken, okay? You can use an old photo, right? That you have taken, remember, we're not trying to steal photos from other people. And don't forget to play with as many lenses as you can. I mean, your phone probably has like 3 lenses, or if you get you can even use film if you want to use film. You have a film camera, go for that. That'll be perfect. Just have to develop and scan. Don't forget to play with the lenses and shoot the subject with as many angles as possible. Even if you don't have as many lenses, try to move around. Don't be stuck on like face-to-face kind of photo. Like move around, see what helps you tell the story of the subject you're trying to depict, all right? All these in automatic. Again, only if you know manual settings, go for it. But for now, we're just doing automatic. Don't worry about the rest. We're gonna cover more of the other settings later. But for now, just automatic. Don't worry about the rest. We just want you to try different angles, try different lenses, try to move around. That's I think the main thing for this, the perspective. Where are you shooting from? Tarea. Toma fotos pensando en la perspectiva. ¿Quién habla o el sujeto de la foto? ¿Con una cámara elegante o la cámara de un teléfono celular? Pero si no puedes, énfasis si no puedes, porque no quiero que todos intenten, pero si estás, no sé, encerrado en una tumba, no sé, pues usa fotos viejas, ¿verdad? No importa, pero tú las tienes que haber tomado, porque no quiero que diga, me robaron las fotos y no sé qué. No, quiero que tomen las fotos o que las hayan tomado. No olvides jugar con tantos lentes como puedas y fotografiar al sujeto desde tantos ángulos como sea posible. Como repito, los teléfonos tienen también varios lentes y si no tienes varios lentes, aún así te puedes mover alrededor, cerca, lejos, excepto que sea un león, no te acerques a los animales salvajes. Repito, ha pasado mucho. Todo esto en automático, o a lo menos que sepan usar manual. Como les digo, vamos a usar más settings después, pero ahorita en automático. Nada más quiero que se muevan alrededor, que hay diferentes tipos de ángulos, ¿ok? Once we have that, using the software of your choosing, I mean, the software that we used in this class was Photoshop and Snapseed. Those are the 2 that we just covered. Adjust rotation or perspective or cropping the photo if you need. This is not a requirement, but if you feel like you want to try it, go for it. Maybe you took the photo a little crooked, you can adjust it and things like that. Things simples that we went here, like cropping. Also, if you don't want the whole thing in the photo, you can crop it, right? That's what cropping means. Usando software de tu elección, usamos Photoshop y Snapseed en la clase. Son los que les enseñé. Ajusta con rotación, perspectiva o recortar si la fotografía lo necesita. Y esto, les digo, no es esencial, pero si sienten que la foto la tomaron un poco chueca o si la perspectiva la pueden mover un poquito para darle un poco más de énfasis a la foto, pues le pueden intentar en esos programas. Y como les digo, uno de esos programas es gratis, no tienen que comprarlo, pueden bajar en su teléfono. Y finally, this is the last part of the homework. Create a poem about the subject you chose, right? Remember to think about the perspective. In perspective, you can talk about like you being the animal or the creature or the type of angle you're choosing. So that's the perspective, either the point of view or the perspective as a thought, as a what you're thinking, right? Finalmente, crea un poema sobre el tema que elijas. El tema me refiero a la foto. Recuerda pensar en la perspectiva, o sea, de punto de vista visual o de punto de vista conceptual. Por ejemplo, conceptual vendría siendo si, por ejemplo, en el ejemplo del estudiante, el estudiante es el que está hablando en el poema. O de vista, pues depende de dónde lo estás viendo, ¿verdad? De techo, de una persona que se va a aventar, no sé. Todo lo que sea, ¿verdad? El punto de vista del que quieras iluminar al sujeto, a la foto que tomaste. ¿No? So, any questions about this homework? It has 3 phases. You don't have to do the second phase. That's only if you want to play around with it. But I think it's going to be really helpful if you start playing with these programs, especially because they're free. They're free programs, except for Photoshop, but you can get a trial, at least if you want to play with that. And for the time being, Pilón, y digo Pilón porque we had another class and I really love when we went to a website. What was the name of the writer, Luis?
Sandra Cisneros.
Sandra Cisneros had a little thing on her website that says Pilón. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. On angles, Pilón, función en ángulos, ¿verdad? Y Pilón básicamente it means extra, like a little extra, right? And so here are a couple of different photos. This one, again, is straightforward from almost eye level shooting to the person. This is a convention of like a custom conversion for, this is Star Wars basically, right? So I like this one because it has kind of the silhouette of the person. And he definitely knew I was shooting the photo. He was kind of posing as he went, I don't know if down the elevator or up the elevator, I don't remember. And again, that's a point, a perspective, right? And then we have another photo from the top, right? So this one has a different, more of a elements of like, he definitely didn't know I was there. So I like that. Again, all these details are different from the top than from the bottom. And here we have another angle, right? Talk about like from the bottom to the top. And so again, same thing I was telling you, just play around. These photos I took in the same area. I don't have to go to a different city to take them. So just move around, change the angles. Okay. So any questions? Yeah, the handout, Luis is going to put it later. We just had to figure out some of the exercises that we're doing. But yeah, he's going to put it on the class website.
Yeah. So yeah, just to answer the question in the chat for everyone to know, the question was if the handout will be made available. Of course, it will be made available. It'll be uploaded to our Google Classroom along with the video of today's lesson. So that way you can review it if you want to review it, or you can also, just download the handout for your own purposes. And
Okay.
Nettie, I see that you raised your hand.
Just making sure the deadline is this Friday, right?
Yeah. So if you are expecting to get your work reviewed, you will be getting an email. And actually, I just realized I totally forgot to email out the cohort assignments. So my apologies. I will send the cohort assignments to everybody tomorrow. And then that will be the group who you share your work with using Google Docs and Google Drive if you're sharing photos. But yes, this
And
Friday.
again, I
so that
think you
way-
can definitely take it like, I guess, at least a Sunday if you want to. So I know this is more of an outside, maybe go and take photos.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we can deal with something, and we'll just review it as a group on Tuesday, right?
Yeah, Tuesday. So next
Yeah.
Tuesday, a week from today, will be our very first workshopping session.
Mhm.
And again, in order for the workshopping sessions to be effective and to, give everyone an opportunity to have their work reviewed, we do ask that you submit your writing and or your photos, no later than Sunday, we'll say, for review by the people in your cohort. To answer Miss Michelle's question of will it be required in JPEG? JPEG or PNG are usually the two file formats that you can share that everybody has access to. JPEGs for sure. And you could put the photo in a Google Doc, or you can share the photo just as a photo itself when uploading it to Google Drive. If you need a sort of reminder of how to do that, I recommend that you go back to the Google Classroom and watch the orientation video where I cover how to share your files using Google Drive, specifically for sharing photos. Google Docs works as well. If you feel a little bit more comfortable with using Google Docs instead of Google Drive. Either way, the idea is that you share your work with your cohort. Again, no later than Sunday, just to give people enough time to review the work and give you some comments and come ready to just talk about the work as opposed to reviewing for the very first time next Tuesday.
And again, you can put it in the Word document. You can put the image if you want to. Just type your poem if you want to. And then just go to insert, and then you choose the picture, right? And choose the picture that you want to add, and you can do it like this, see?
Yep. And that's
So
the exact same thing
that's
on
really
Google
easy.
Docs.
Yeah. So go for that. And any questions, try to email or something, and we'll figure something out.
Yeah.
The sooner the better. Is that way we have the time to answer and have fun at this. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah, definitely. Have fun, really do try and just, get the angles that you feel tell the story you want to tell first and foremost. And then after that, you'll just enjoy the process of writing about the work of art that you're creating. So, yeah.
Excellent, guys. I know it was a lot of information, but once you get the hang of it, it's gonna be easy peasy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are there any other final questions before we log out? All right.
Thank you both.
Okie dokie, people.
Well, thank you everybody for joining in tonight. For those of you on the live stream, we also thank you. And of course, like I said, this video, the recording of this lesson will go up tomorrow-ish, probably later in the day tomorrow, along with the handout for everyone to review. For everybody that is watching on the live streams, again, you can always join the class to get access to the handouts by visiting our website at dstilarts.org/Conchas y Café zine. And I hope that you all, again, have a lot of fun taking photos. I know that for me, that is one of the fun parts. The writing part is, a little secondary to taking the photos. Even then, the writing can be a lot of fun. So I hope you all enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone. And I look forward to seeing you all next week.
Good night. Have fun.